This is part 2 of my conversation with Riyaaz Amlani, founder of Impresario Handmade Restaurants. If you missed part 1, the short version is 25 years of building, 80 plus restaurants today, brands you've been to even if you don't realize it. Social, Smokehouse Delhi, Antisocial, Bandrabon. Part 1 was the journey, part 2 is how Riyaaz thinks. We get into the aggregator economy and what he meant a few years ago when he called Zomato and Swiggy the new digital landlords, and where, with the benefit of hindsight, that metaphor still holds. We get into social as a co working space and what actually is working with that bet. His Gen Alpha kids and the leakage between being a parent and being a CEO. The cafes are anti loyalty thesis, which I'd never heard a restaurateur articulate before, and what he wants Impresario to look like 25 years from now, which is not what you would guess. And we end on the question I've been asking founders for 55 episodes on a scale of 1 to 10, how happy are you with your life? Riyaaz answers 9.9. The most interesting part of the whole conversation is what the missing 0.1 means. Here's part 2. You've also been twice president of the National Restaurant Association. NRAI is that, right?
That's right.
Yeah, NRAI. And you've been very vocal as the NRAI president. You once called Zomato and Swiggy our new digital landlords, 2019. And since then, of course, there's a lot of things have changed. New players have come up. ONDC has come up. And when you look at the landscape today around either dining in or food delivery, how do you look at digital platforms and the role that they play? Has there been a, like, just like your restaurants iterate and evolve, how has your thinking around platforms evolved?
Well, we've gone from resisting to finding cohabitation. Um, we we fully appreciate what the aggregators have done for the delivery space, right? When they came in, uh, they started off, as delivery partner, or we're going to put your menu up, and it was very insidious. And our relationship really changed from them being dependent on us to us being dependent on them. And kudos to how they've gone about it and how they've created demand and how they've trained people to use that software. They've definitely managed to create a whole segment of business, which is delivery business, which is now as high as 20% of dining out. And now they are interested in going after the dining out business too. And we are in the business of resisting that. And slowly, by offering discounts, by offering deep discounting, by spending a lot of money on ads, they manage to train people. So when they want to order, they will either hit Zomato or they will hit Swiggy. And now when they want to go out also, they do tend to hit those buttons because they want to see where the best offer is, or what the best deal they can get. And that's been our primary struggle against them, right? To basically to keep reducing the perceived value of our product and service that we are offering, right? And for Swiggy and Zomato, the only way of being relevant as an aggregator is to offer deep discounting and then aggregate demand and then distribute it as they see fit. And that's been the push and pull that we've done with each other. Um, it is a struggle. It is also the unity that um, keeps pushing the side of the restaurant, keeps the voice of the restaurant heard. Otherwise, it's very easy to get completely bulldozed by them. So, I think the unity that the restaurant association offers and our ability to stand strong has been able to, in many ways, curtail runaway policies that could have really, really impacted the restaurant business. So we found a piece, we found a working solution, we
Coexistence.
found an uneasy truce, pretty much like what's happening right now. Yeah.
Got it. This tension between aggregators and service providers or brands and customers cuts across sectors. Like for example, in the media space where I am from, it's the same thing, right? You can get intermediate through a Meta or an Instagram or a LinkedIn or a Twitter, etc.
Hmm.
And or you can have your own direct relationship with subscribers. So this thing in the restaurant business is not just a function of your you getting devalued and being forced to give discounts, but it's also that relationship that you have with the diner. To go back to your earlier example about social, you said repeat frequency is one of the things which is very important, right? What How do you see this evolving, the relationship between, because I think we went through this phase pre-COVID, and then during COVID everyone's relationships with their favorite cafes or restaurants sort of got disrupted, and then it kind of got hijacked partly by platforms. And now for the last few years we've been hearing that people are sort of slowly reforming those relationships in the real world with the restaurants and spaces. How do you sort of see this relationship between customers and restaurants, and how does this evolve from here?
If you draw a parallel from what happened to the hotel industry, right? We kept when booking.com and what's the other one? Uh, hotels.com. They came about, they went in, they came with simple promise, okay, look, we know that 20% of your inventory is not sold. How about we buy that from you at 50% and then we'll see what we do, right? So slowly, and they started then deep discounting on that as well. So what effectively started happening was I wanted to book a hotel room. I called up the hotel and they gave me a tariff rate, or I went to the hotel's website and I got a tariff rate. But I went to hotel.com, I went to bookings.com. I got
Much better tariff.
unbelievable
Yeah,
price. I got thing taken care. Everything was seamless. The experience was smooth. I booked in. There was no need for me to even pay a booking advance. It was
that's
pay on
true.
delivery. It was wonderful. And what started happening, and what hotel was saying, and yeah, they are buying 20% of my unsold inventory anyway. This is incremental business. It does not matter. Sooner or later, the hotel was the one that was paid for the inventory, but it was the aggregators that were collecting 40% of the inventory, literally. And it took a while for hotels to get their act together and realize that they were the ones sending the customer into the arms of the aggregator by offering a better price on the aggregator
Yes,
platforms
this used to be the
than
worst,
than than that you did on your own platform.
but that
So
started changing. I think they've gotten smarter now, where you start to see competitive or better
now,
prices.
yes, now you would be hard pressed to find a better price on if you were, let's say, if you were going to a Marriott, or you were enrolled with their Taj,
Right.
right? The bigger chains where they have the capabilities. The smaller guys, they still need the aggregators now. But the loyalty programs kind of stepped in, but the loyalty gave you better rates than what you would get on this thing. So it took a while. It took about 20 years for this realization and the dawn to happen. And I think for restaurateurs who don't have sophisticated marketing outreaches, who don't have websites, who you don't have these, payment gateways tied up and all of that, and credit cards giving you 5% back if you do this, so it is much tougher. But you have to be very clear, and it's something that I tell people: if you're going to send your guests into the arms of the aggregator, don't blame the aggregator tomorrow. You're doing it yourself. So build your systems, build your outreach, build your loyalty programs, build that connection, build that capability, build it, build the booking process or the payment process or the any process that you have much smoother than you would on an aggregator, right? You have to invest in it. But restaurateurs, it takes a little time, but we are, as NRAI, help people to make sure that we stand a even fighting chance.
Hmm. Interesting. Now, you said that your DNA will always be experiential. Now, another guest I've had on First Principles is Jaideep Burman, and you know Jaideep. And Jaideep he built Rebel Foods, and his explicit bet is that delivery essentially over time eats dine-in. Now, there are these two tensions between delivery and dine-in, right? What is the long term balance that you think we'll settle in? Because no one could have predicted how much delivery would rise if you went back to, let's say, 2001 when you started Mocha. I'm sure none of us had any clue how big this would become, right? But what do you see as sort of like, what is the tension between these two, and where does it settle between delivery and dine in?
I genuinely believe they are two completely different businesses. Just because there's food involved doesn't make it the same business. Right? There's food services and there's food businesses which are very different. Um, Haldiram's Bhujia is a way operating in a very different space. Um, the delivery business is not cannibalizing the need to go out. That is a very different business, right? People will continue wanting to go out, and the frequency of when I started off, the frequency of people going out a month was 4 times as NRA president. Now it's come to 14 times in urban areas. So it's gone up and it'll continue going up. The more people will choose to go out because supply will create that demand. The delivery business is competing with your घर की दाल, right? आज फिर से टिंडे बने हैं, कुछ एक्साइटिंग मंगा
Hey,
लेते हैं.
I liked it.
फिर से is the thing,
Right,
right? फिर
right.
से. I love Loki too, but are we doing confessions? um, you're calling for food to brighten up that moment, right? It's not that you want to go out. I mean, try telling your wife, आज आपकी anniversary है, घर पे खाना बुला लेते हैं. You're going to go out and celebrate that special occasion, right? You're going to want to meet your friends. Um, Increasingly, the urban sprawl, you need to have spaces where you're going to coordinate with your friends, your colleagues, your family. You need spaces. So it's a different business, yeah, and both of them will grow separately. It's not which one is better or which one is worse. I mean, one is more a logistics business, and one is more um, exponential. And there's a need for both. Even right now, going out to a restaurant is the number one activity by far. I mean, we beat Bollywood by far. It's still an entertainment option available, and you now with the ticket prices, people are saying, if I'm going to spend 5,000 rupees on watching a movie for 2 hours, why can't I spend that 5,000 rupees in a restaurant? I'll get a good meal and I'll get a few drinks and I'll be able to spend more time there. It's a different business. It's not the same.
Hmm. Now, you've, at Impresario, over the years, you've raised venture capital, you've given exits to you've raised, like, private equity money, you've given exits to them, and you still have significant, if I'm not mistaken, majority private equity ownership. What have been your lessons um, through this process of raising money, finding investors, providing existence? Because that must have taught you a lot of stuff that your customers and restaurants didn't teach, which is, to go back to your analogy of the boardroom CEO and what the boardroom CEO does. What are your biggest lessons from dealing with investors who want in on the restaurant space?
Well, I'm very grateful to private equity. First of all, in the restaurant space, because conventional debt is not freely available. So, growth capital debt is not really an option for a lot of restaurateurs because the business is not backed by hard assets, right? Immovable property. You're usually taking a property on rental. Uh, Restaurants have, famously, like you reminded me, a very high mortality rate. And we
I
are.
reminded you.
uh,
All right.
mm, Well, it is a reminder, isn't it?
That's true.
Yeah, yeah. And somebody needs to put a big poster in front of my head, so maybe I should get out of this business. But no, I think it does have a high mortality rate. It is considered a risky business by traditional debt option. So, really, the option that restaurateurs have is to either borrow equity from friends and family or to raise it from venture capital. So, it does give you that avenue for growth and allows you to amplify what it is that you're doing when no other businesses would. So, yes, it is. You're grateful for that. You want to definitely want capital that's going to be a little bit patient because it does the gestation period from every restaurant needs a 6 to 9 month period of finding the right property, building it out, making sure it's done, and to launch it takes that much time. So things that you implement today, you're not going to see the full benefit for another year, right? For it to get your annualized rate going. So it is a patient game. You have to be very, very clear about where you want to go, and you have to have that vision very clear with your partners, your private equity partners. Patience is key. Um, you want to build a rock steady business, or you want a faster return. Of course, IRR is impacted by how quickly your business grows, right? Is it growth is Are you growing 50% every year? Are you growing 100% every year? Obviously, private equity is drawn to that. Restaurant businesses tend to be a slow pace. It can grow at about 20-25% stably, with stability. um, it's hard to beat that 25% growth if you are a late stage company and not an early
Because the
stage
larger
company.
you get,
Yes,
the more
the larger you
variables
get.
you have.
I mean, if let's say if I'm now 1,000 crore company and I have to grow by 20%, that means I need to add 200 crores next year. It took me my first 15 years to get my first 200 crores, right? So now I have to do this every year.
Got it.
So
And in many ways, the fundamentals haven't changed because you still have to put up physical restaurants. It's not like a digital business where you just scale something
no,
and
it's
it
not.
grows,
It
right?
doesn't. It doesn't. It does take. So scale is not. It does take a lot of. It's very concentrated, the business.
Hmm.
It's not like you created a software service and you just keep adding users to it.
Got it.
You got
What motivates you then on any given day?
it. What motivates me? I love creating restaurants. I love it. I really enjoy it. I like the adjacencies that you have to explore when you're making a restaurant, and is how nuanced it is as a craft. You first need to understand the city you're operating in. You need to understand the neighborhood you're operating in. You need to understand what role are you playing in that community, and how can you really really resonate with that community deeply. And I enjoy that process. I enjoy studying about that community. I get like getting to know about that city. I like to get to know its backstory. I get to understand its flavor profiles. I love meeting people in that community. So I enjoy every little bit of it, and it's very gratifying as a business.
There is this cliche that we are usually the average of the five people that we spend the most amount of time with. Who are those five people for you?
Uh, then, of course, my people I work with, I spend a lot of time with. And not only do I work with them, I also find myself socializing with them a lot. And of course, I never enough time to spend with the family. Um, I don't really subscribe to this. You're the average of the five people that you spend time with. Um, you can be enriched by any person that you meet. I strongly believe if you're curious enough, there's something that you can learn from every person you
All
meet.
right, let's go there. What's your process to meet new people on an ongoing basis? Like there is,
Process. I don't have a process.
how do you find new people and find new
I
ideas?
my business is such that I'm meeting new people all the time.
How does it happen? You are at a restaurant, you
I'm at a
just go and meet.
restaurant. You'll end up meeting. A guest comes in. You strike up a conversation. It is one of the most social businesses that you could be in, and I literally run social. So
Right.
yes,
Right. I
um,
can't escape the fact that a lot of what the business is in some senses not a reflection, but like, a derivative of the person that you are, how you think about cities, how you think about people, how you think about craft, etc., and stuff like that, right? But my question also was about, you know, you're also the CEO. You're also you're meeting customers, sure, but where are you finding new ideas from? Where are you meeting people from? Like you said, those adjacencies where perhaps, I don't know, someone's not a customer, but you're still learning from them. How does that happen for you? How much of that is structured? How much of that is serendipitous?
the only structure is to not have a structure, I suppose, right? To allow for serendipities to happen, but you have to. It's like if you need to allow for serendipities to happen, you got to plan for it. It's like saying planning for spontaneity, right? Okay, I'm going
That's
to
exactly my question.
be.
How do you plan for that serendipity? You said you travel 20 days
You
a
travel
month.
20 days, you meet a lot of people. In my line of work, you go to different cities, you're interacting with them. Make sure that you don't create they talk about digital echo chambers. I think it's much worse to have the non digital echo chambers, right? You tend to surround yourself with a few people, and then or a certain age group or a certain socio-economic background, you start losing touch with the real world in many ways. So the idea really is to try and I love hanging out with people of all ages, and right now to me getting to
Understanding
interact
and
with a
decoding
Gen
Gen
Z
Zs.
is an obsession. I make it a point. I try to make it a point to kind of understand and meet them. Fortunately, I walk into a restaurant, I can go up to any table and introduce myself and start having a conversation, and I do that, and I try and understand, why are they here, what are they looking, what are they going to do next, what do they enjoy. We do a lot of community-led events, a lot of music, a lot of craft, a lot of art, community-led spaces, and I'm constantly meeting very, very interesting people who are pushing the envelope in many different
Got it.
directions. That's very inspiring.
What's your process when you have these conversations? You come across interesting ideas. Do you have a method? Do you have a process to keep track of interesting feedback or ideas or tips that you get from people, or is it all sort of in your head and then at some point, like, do you note it down?
No, I,
Do
do-
you have
I do write it down. I do write it down. I tend to conveniently forget the source, but I remember the idea. So um, and that's what they say. Creativity is that forgetting where you first saw it, right? But it's not so much of a process as it is. I also feel a genuine curiosity as to what drives people and how what uh, why are they pushing this envelope, or why are they getting behind this as their um, reason to live or to keep themselves occupied. It's like with I find it with artists is fascinating, with graphic designers, people with more creative fronts. I like hanging out with them because there's always something that you can borrow from them and give it to the masses in some places. So um, I'm genuinely curious. I like new thoughts, new ideas. I'm the first one to go to some experimental play or experimental design or something which is weird and wonderful. I'm drawn to that.
all right? You did say that last year you ended up replacing roughly 50% of your people. And even if you exclude that 1 year as sort of like an outlier, I'm sure one of the things that you do a lot of is finding and hiring talented people to join you in your business. Do you have a secret or hacks to what you look for when you meet someone and your sort of antenna goes up and says, this person is good. I gotta figure out a way to get him or her aboard. What's your secret to finding talented people?
It's different for different roles, I would suppose. You need all types. It's it does take a village in our business. You need the left brain guys, you need the right brain
The
guys.
diversity that you spoke of in the business model applies with
Yes,
people as well.
especially for us. Yeah, absolutely. And um, there are people who are the doers, they're the divas. And I think you need both of them. You need the doers and the divas to make a business run. I think the doers keep the wheels rolling, and the divas are the ones who show you wild, crazy new directions that you can take up. And I find myself kind of being the arbitrator or the peacemaker between these two different factions within the company. But you need that creative tension. You do need the dreamers who are, perhaps don't show up early or are always late or throw more temper tantrums, but are also phenomenally gifted vis-a-vis guys who show up every day in the morning at the right time, the plowmen.
But that tension is woven, that's impresario handmade. That's the tension that you're referring to. On one hand is the craft, the
Yeah,
artist,
yeah.
and on the other hand is the business side. That's the
It's a
tension that you're
menagerie. Yes.
referring. All right. Let me flip that question and ask you, who are the sort of people who kind of thrive and enjoy working in the restaurant business? What draws them to it? Because you did say that it's not easy. But to be frank, a lot of work, interesting work, is not meant to be easy. It's meant to be satisfying. So who are the people who find restaurants really satisfying? Like you. It's very clear that you find it very satisfying. So, what sort of people are drawn to Impresario who end up being successful and working there for years on end?
um it's well, being an extrovert helps. Meeting, like,
It is
enjoying.
a hospitality
It is
business,
the
absolutely.
hospitality business. um Sometimes some of the most talented people are introverts and people who are very aloof as well, um, more so in the kitchen. And they tend to be very, very focused on the craft and the process.
I'm thinking of the beef.
And the bear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, that's exactly what I meant. I meant the bear, not the beef. The beef is
The
the other.
beef
Yeah,
is the other
yeah, yeah.
one.
The
Yeah.
other one. I crossed those Y's in my head. The bear, absolutely.
Yeah.
Kami.
And like the characters over there, the maitre d has to be flamboyant and the life of the party in many ways. And the guy who's dishing out the dishes is operating in complete zone of laser focus, because can't afford to even get one little thing wrong, because there's so much technique and so much pressure, and you got to just keep, like, laser focused on the work. It does take all types to make a restaurant going, so it's hard to say, because there are people who the left brain variety enjoy different parts of the business. The chartered accountants and the purchase managers and the finance guys operate at a different tonality. It's, to me, it's a source of constant fascination, is that how so many diverse people count are needed to build one coherent, cogent experience. You do need them all. It's really hard to say that. But if you were to look at a restaurant owner and you look at an impresario, then I would say that you do need a certain largesse of heart in hospitality. You need to be willing to give more than you get. That is a secret. If you are going to be a bean counter in the restaurant business, some point of time is going to come back and bite you in the ass. But if you got to have that little largesse, to be able to say, yeah, take a little bit more, don't worry, it's on me, enjoy it. as opposed to like keeping, you build this, you have to eat it, or it has to be exactly as per count, and every drop, every grain of rice has to be accounted for. I find that the soul of hospitality then suddenly goes out of the window. So somewhere down the line, you got to have that largesse, and believe that giving will get you more. You know.
Going back to social, one of the format evolutions that it made over time was the addition of a co-working space or the utilization of a, a restaurant. Sorry, what do I call social? A restaurant?
Yeah, well,
A
I think of it
cafe?
as social infrastructure.
All
uh,
right, fine. So
hmm.
it added co-working space. So the
we were a co-working space from day one. From
hmm.
day one, we did not
So
add it on.
it
we
wasn't. So
we were
the
always
model.
we were very clear from day one that 30% of our inventory, Monday to Friday, 9 to 6, will be dedicated to work.
How's that working out today with the benefit of hindsight of all the years of operation? How does co-working happen out of social, and is that 30% number that you said? What have been your learnings?
It's different in different locations. It's not the same everywhere. For example, we find nobody really likes to come to malls to co-work.
To
High
co
street locations tend to do better. Some high street locations which are closer to CBD areas tend to do better than which are more in the residential areas. So it's different, and we kind of we've now got a sense of what will drive how much work. But we very clearly knew that, again, we were talking about table turnarounds, right? So if you're operational for 16 hours and you do a table turnaround of 5, and you've got average table turnaround time of 90 minutes, you still have 40% of your inventory which is not sold, right? And that coincides beautifully with Monday to Friday, 9 to 6. And also, I think like the sign of time where this kind of co-working culture was coming up, people wanted to do startups. There was this whole bizarre business called accelerators and incubators, and all they were doing was providing you a bloody desk and taking 10% of your company. And I was like, what the hell is that? Like, how dare they just, they're literally giving you a table and a desk and an air conditioner and an address, and they're taking 10% of your company, and you've given that away? That's ridiculous, right? So we realized that people were using cafes to work because we we've done so many cafes: Saltwater Cafe, Smokehouse Delhi, Prithvi Cafe, Mocha. We've seen people coming to cafes first for meetings, then lingering on a little bit with their laptops open, then just coming just to do work. People even abandoning their offices who were had their office just above me in the same building, deciding that they wanted to come down and work while they were still part of a urban swell where serendipities could happen. So we realized that there was this real need for people, but people were using cafes for workspaces, but it was never official, right? People were always trying to see whether I need to buy one more muffin or I need to buy one more coffee to earn the right to continue to exist in that space. We realized that and said, hey, look, it's okay. We know that you're going to linger for 8 hours, 9 hours. We're going to dedicate a space for you for that. You're going to become part of our core group. You're going to become part of our heartbeat. It's fine. We anyway have that inventory space which you're not going to utilize. You're welcome to it. Those 40 people, those 50 people really became the core of our community. And we are about communities. Cafes, third spaces are about communities. It's either a geographical community or a community of like-minded individuals, and we build around communities. So every social takes on the name of the community it serves. So right next door we have Car Social, and we have Carter Road Social, Church Street Social. So we want to be relevant to that particular community. It's all about that for us.
If I zoom out and if you look at Impresario as a group, what are some of the first principles that or philosophies that it always carries with itself? Clearly, some of them you've covered. I think it must be local and it must be rooted in community and a reflection of what the environment is. But other than that,
Handmade.
and
Handmade. Mm,
handmade,
mm.
right? right? What are the philosophies that sort of permeate across any restaurant brand or cafe brand that you run, that are common across the group?
I think a good marriage between people and processes, and not letting one take over the other. I think that's something that we very strongly believe in. We believe in process now, after understanding the chaos that scale can cause if you don't have processes, and after focusing a lot on processes, now we've begun to believe that it just processes alone will not carry you over.
So it's sort of like this pendulum
It has
swinging.
been. We have been oscillating between this philosophy and that philosophy, and from time to time, you know, uh, one becomes more urgent and one becomes more important, and striking the balance. But yes, I think understanding that while processes are important, you can't do this without people. You have to get the right people leading the right organization, or the soul goes over very, very quickly. And we are in the business of providing soul. If you go to a place which feels transactional and soulless, you will treat it the same way. But if you go to a place where you're made to feel welcome and you're given a genuine sense of hospitality, you want to make it your own, right? So if you treat your guests transactionally, uh, process will tell you, okay, welcome to the most scaled fast food restaurant in the world. Have a nice day, right? You can see it's plastic. You can see it's transactional. There's no genuine hospitality because there's a guy behind you who's already standing, and you're just another cog in the wheel. But in our spaces, belongingness is very, very important. So I think first principle, both for the people who are running the business as well as for the guests who visit the place, is becomes very, very crucial for us. And there are ways of measuring and managing and codifying hospitality as well, and that's something that we are working on
What is
non-stop.
the NPS surveys? What are you?
It is NPS service, although we don't really call it as a net promoter score. But yes, you have to have your ear to the ground when it comes to what guests are saying, and you have to measure the
Since we're talking about that, let me ask you, right? Like, one of the things that I think must be the hardest thing to get from customers right after they've had a meal, then someone tells them, please give us feedback. Does that work? Do you end up getting reliable feedback through that method?
feedback is absolutely essential. So we harvest feedback in many different ways. Of course, filling up a form, give somebody a pen and what would you recommend? You don't really get the right
Right.
answers. How was the food? How was the drink?
Right. Everything is.
It's not actionable, and so much is subjective, right? Um, Fortunately for us, we have three or four different mechanisms to harvest feedback. Um, One, of course, is online platforms. You Google reviews, your Zomato reviews. People are always leaving you reviews. You put up an Instagram post, you'll find somebody having some thought or process on that. So it's this ORM, which is a process. And of course, AI is really helping us sift through these bits of information. We also have what we call a guest experience officer. Will go up to your table once you order the bill. The chatty person will come, put a microphone in front of you,
Got it.
and ask you, so you ordered this. What did you think about this dish? You ordered this. If you don't mind me asking, and it's conversational, right?
Yeah.
If the person is pleasing enough, you don't mind spending 5 minutes with that person and feeling heard, right? So that's one way. Every person who bills gets a WhatsApp message saying, would you care to give me a feedback? So we triangulate a lot of information, and that gives us a lot of gives us a health check very, very quickly, and we monitor that religiously. uh,
All right. Let me switch to you. Tell me about your kids and their view of the world. What are their names?
my older one is called is Khayal, and the younger one is Daniel. um, Chalk and cheese. Kiran, my wife, when they were very young, when I think Daniel was less than 4 months old, she's like, and Khayal was 3. She's like, Khayal is a Labrador and Daniel is a Rottweiler. And yeah, they've kind of grown up like that. The younger one is very fierce, very quiet, very committed, and the older one is loves life, loves the giggle, likes to have a great time, likes the good things. Um, their worldview,
The Gen Alpha.
Gen Alpha.
What is their view of?
Well, besides the words that they use, which are kind of, which I'm constantly catching up with, but I have become very Sigma at it. Um, yeah, they have this. What I'm seeing about Gen Alphas, which I find fascinating, right? My kids have access to my PS5. They have access to all my subscriptions, Geo, Hotstar, Disney, Prime, and they will abandon all of that and play Minecraft, which is 8-bit in its approach, and
Yes.
they will
And all
spend,
these geometric games and
yeah, the
yeah,
geometry,
yeah, that's right.
which to me is the most frustrating thing on this planet. um but that's what they will give up this high production value for something more 8-bit, something more real and more tactile in that way. I, Also, how aware they are is ridiculous. Like the things that the kids know about. My Khayal wanted to know my net worth when he was 6 years old. I wouldn't know what net worth was until they're so aware of, they
At 6, you were planning how to sell marbles.
yes. I didn't know what net worth was. um it's just fantastically aware and fantastically mature, and having a very strong point of view on things. Uh it's then I think they're all fairly mature in their approach to life, and they know about diversity. They're comfortable with a multicultural approach. They know their sushi from the dim sums. You know what I'm saying? Like when we were growing up, we hadn't a clue, but they're so hyper aware and so hyper confident. Very very clear in what they want, what they like. They don't want to be pushed around. I'm your father, and I told you so does not cut it at all. You have to give them very solid logic and very solid reasoning for them to do something. And once they believe in it, they will do it. And it's fascinating. The Gen Alphas is a whole new beast
So
waiting.
you're trying to decode Gen Zs and Gen Alphas both at the same time.
Gen Alphas, I have a ringside seat.
Huh.
Uh, Gen Zs is something that I need to work.
But Gen Alphas is still not customer territory yet, for
Not
not
yet.
for a while.
Not yet. But I have a feeling that sooner or later they are going to, you know, they're going to push the Gen Zs out of the way pretty quickly.
Hmm. Do you find any crossed wires or leakages of insights between yourself when you're playing parent versus playing CEO?
Empathy, perhaps. Um, when you're playing a parent, there's a ton of empathy. When you're playing CEO, sometimes I feel there's a lack of empathy also,
Hmm.
which sometimes you need to kind of reconcile between the two.
Got it. How do you spend your weekends?
Doing bugger all. uh, Time to myself is really really just to be have the ability to veg and maybe watch a show or play a game on my PS5. Spend a couple of hours doing that. Maybe uh, getting a foot massage. It's just relaxing.
What are your
Yes.
favorite games? What sort of genre do you like?
Well, I kind of my favorite go-to game is FIFA. I have to play a game every day. It's meditative for me. Um, I like games like Uncharted. Right now, I'm enjoying the new Bond game, which is quite cool. Yeah.
Hmm. Interesting. Which now you work in some senses like a 7 days a week business, right? So
7 days, 18 hours a day business. Yeah.
right. So one of the questions that I usually ask founders is which morning of the week do you look forward to the most And I feel like I must ask you that question because even though you do have this completely, like, never stops sort of business, is there such a day for you where you look forward to a particular day of the week, morning?
Sunday afternoons. Sunday afternoons, post lunch is, I think, is the day where I feel that there's the most amount of downtime for me. Saturday nights are a little blurry because it's always somebody wanting to go somewhere, some event happening, something going on somewhere. So that's a little tough. You're always answering the phone, making sure somebody needs something here, or somebody has a question there, or some emergency shown up somewhere else. uh, Sunday afternoons I find are the most peaceful times for me, where I find that I can actually step away for the phone for a little bit and
Hmm.
keep some distance between me and that thing. Yeah.
If you were locked in a room without internet for 24 hours, what would you do?
Without internet, ah, I would find myself organizing and planning. Yeah,
Hmm.
it's yeah. There's so much.
Really? Are you like a Milo CD, or like just you like organic? Or
No,
what does it mean?
I hate I hate having a structured day. I hate having, knowing exactly what I'm going to be doing for the next 10 hours. I like to be able to um, kind of drift away into like pursuing something that I'm really in the zone for. But I do find that, you know, taking maybe one day off every 15 days to just take stock of everything you've done in the last 15 days and what you want to do for the next 15 days is
Ah, so I get what you.
absolutely essential, because you then suddenly, from that panic and chaos, suddenly starts feeling like control, right?
Hmm.
So that
So you're
becomes
trying to
possible.
turn this. I gave you an example of adversity that you're locked in a room without internet, and you're sort of converting it into, finally, I have a day and I'm going to kind of plan
Yes,
out.
because if you have
Hmm.
internet, you're already being barraged, right? I look at it as my time on a plane. It's when I have that time is
What do you
just
do on a
where.
plane?
Otherwise, there's always input coming in, right? There's
Hmm.
always somebody hitting you up with something, somebody calling you, somebody sending you a WhatsApp message, somebody on your teams wanting something, or some decision that you have to make. You're constantly responding, and you're not really in charge of your own day, because somebody wants something, approval, rejection, something. uh, but having that quiet time where there's no input is really the time for collecting your thoughts and being ready for what your agenda is and not what everybody else's agenda is.
Do you meditate?
I try 15 minutes after I wake up, uh, in the sunlight. That's what I try to do. Some days I can, some days I don't. But yeah, it's 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 very centering.
Hmm. Um, 6 out of 10 times when you're eating out at someone else's restaurant, what do you end up ordering? Or what's the most common dish that you end up ordering?
Anything with protein, actually. Uh,
Oh, come on. Now
mhm.
you're sounding like Gen Zs. Like, who calls food
Hello, huh,
protein? Like, you're a
come on.
restaurant. You've been running restaurants for 21,
Functional
like
food and
25
drink
years.
now. Come
It's chicken, it's
on.
mutton, it's fish, protein.
Yeah, well, we are in a very veg
Protein
intensive.
obsessed
Yeah, well,
world as well.
we are now becoming protein and fiber obsessed also now. It's the
Yeah.
new
I mean,
buzzword,
as
isn't it?
that's first protein and then
Yeah.
now fiber. Hmm.
No, so if I go to a restaurant, I would like to, if it, depending on the kind of restaurant I'm going to, if it's a chef driven or a mixologist driven, then I would like to understand what their philosophy is and what their voice is, and I would like kind of defer to them and say, you know what, why don't you give me your favorite dishes, and why don't you tell me what you would like to me to eat in your space, because um and if it's not that kind of a restaurant, if it's like your soul comfort food
Yeah. What's that for
kind of
you?
thing, a butter chicken biryani and a butter naan, come on, man. um uh, it hits the spot, doesn't it? A good noodle with a nice chili chicken hits the spot. I'm a sucker for regional food. I love those flavors. So whether it's Maharashtrian food or whether it's a good ghee roast or
Hmm.
whether it's a chettinad or it's I like those kind of flavors too.
Now, you've been in this business for 25 years, right? When you look forward, like 25 years from now, what will you be doing?
I think to have a plan for more than 3 weeks is a waste of time. Things change so fast, right? You got to be able to be. I mean, I have a rough idea for the next restaurant, or I have a rough direction of what part of this very multifaceted business that we are in to explore. I have a rough idea, and then as you kind of bring it together into life with dialogue and with partnerships with a whole host of people, it kind of shape shifts and evolves, and you need to be ready for that too.
What is that ambition? What is that now from where you are today? Fairly
For Impresario,
large. Yeah, for Impresario. What's the next milestone
Impresario,
or goal or
we
ambition?
aim to be India's largest food services platform operating in the full service restaurant space. Uh, and let me explain what full
Yes,
service
absolutely.
means. So you tend to break up restaurants, and part of it is I'm guilty of, because when we were doing the NRA report, we had broken up the business into PBCLs, pop-ups, cafes, lounges, premium dining, casual dining, quick service, and dark kitchen. I feel now that there's this range which is called full service restaurants, where there's service is not just QSR where you go and pick it up. People bring you food on your table, but not just that. It's also events, gigs, programming, community spaces. It's a lot more than just bringing food to your table. So we want to become a platform. We want to be able to help young entrepreneurs, help them in their scale journey, because like I said, it's two different skill sets: building an organization and building a restaurant. Right? Restaurant still needs good people, and the organization needs learnings and experience and ability to scale. And I think a lot of restaurateurs find it very difficult to operate in two different cities. So you know, when you're running one restaurant, it's a different skill set. Two, 20, and then at scale or multi-city, it requires a completely different skill set. So we want to be able to kind of become almost like a fund for emerging food service talent, and we want to help them achieve whatever their goals are.
What
So
does that mean? Does that mean that really like someone joins Impresario
no,
and
if
is
somebody
able
could
to?
have a a restaurant idea or something which they've already achieved and they want to scale and they need help scaling it up, we provide not just the capital, but we'll also provide some degree of expertise and some degree of
Got it.
experience in your journey. So the entrepreneur is free to focus on the product itself and not have to worry about all
That's
the
why you
how
use the
the
word platform.
platform. That's right.
And what does this? What will this platform provide? And it is this today? Would you call Impresario a platform, or is it the
we
vision
are
for
we
it
are
to
we are
become?
becoming a platform slowly.
What's the
We are
difference
making
between?
our first, investing in brands which are not necessarily started by us, but we see potential to 5x it, 6x it. Those are the ones that we will
So that must be
in
an interesting evolution then, which is going from sort of creating, building, iterating, scaling things that you created to investing in something that somebody else created but helping scale that.
yes,
Has that already started?
it is started in a small way. See, you need the product itself, right? And then the product, what so let's look at restauranting. It's about identifying the right property for the right idea, having a good idea, hiring an architect, executing the project, training, hiring, setting up systems, making sure that the legalities are followed, the laws are followed. You have the requisite licenses, you set up a supply chain. So 85% of the business in the full service restaurant is pretty much the same.
Mm.
What
And it's
really
like the
the
invisible. It's like that iceberg which is invisible. It's under. You don't see
Yes,
that. You only see the part which is
exactly.
operating.
15% is what's on the wall and what's on the menu, right? how the restaurant looks and what the food is, but everything else around it is exactly the same. The nuts and bolts are the same. You need the same exhaust system, you need the same point of sale system, you need the same inventory management systems, you need the same training systems, you need the same review mechanisms. So all of that is common.
That's
Yeah.
what you're focusing on a
Yeah,
lot
and
right now.
support services need to be common, right? I mean, finance is a support service, legal is a support service, HR is a support service, operations and marketing are focused, but everything else is a support service. So, support services can be common because a lot of restaurants make, while they do very well at a store level, by the time it comes to corporate EBITDA, everything is gone away and it takes a big chunk. So, we want to be able to spread that corporate EBITDA over
Hmm.
many different brands, lean more towards the store level operating EBITDA throughout, and spread out your corporate costs.
Got it. I was also good that you brought this up because one of the questions I want to ask you is that there must be this tension between, let's say, you're at, let's say, 80 restaurants right now, and you're wondering what's the 81st one that you start, right? Now, there is the natural progression of, hey, there's social which works. Why not put another social, right? It's an animal, I understand, right? But there is also this thing of, like you said, that you're trying to figure out what Gen Zs want, right? And you said you also like creating new things. There's also this thing of, should we try and create something which does not exist right now? How do you sort of balance this tension between extending something which already works but into a newer locality or city versus trying to take a bolder risk on something which doesn't exist at all and may possibly fail?
Yeah, well, classic build or buy conundrum. Um, of course, you are, if I were to map out social as it speaks right now, we know that we can be about 110 stores in the country, and if I keep adding 20 more stores every year, it's going to get to this
You call
place.
it a store.
A store or outlet, location, whatever. You keep adding 20 more outposts, if you like, to it, you will get to this clip. And you can only do that because that team can only handle that much growth, or that concept can only handle that much growth. Um, Whereas there could be a brand out there, let's say, which has 10 stores, can very quickly be scaled up into the locations which we know will be best. So, social has a business opportunity of being a 2,000 crore business. Brand A has the possibility of being a 200 crore business. Brand C has the opportunity of being a 500 crore business. Brand D can be a 1,000 crore business, but it has its limitation in the market. Right? If I want to become a 10,000 crore company, which we do, you need to have a few pillars that are supporting that group. And that also keeps you future ready because trends will change, products will change. The locations are not going to change that quickly. You have the capability of, let's say, okay, you know what, this brand has lived its life, let it go gracefully, or like I said, if either it's an evolution or it's a revolution. And we definitely see, based on our experience operating in India, operating in 80 different locations, we know what those markets want, we know what the rentals there are, we know what the wallet sizes are, what the frequencies are, and we know a product, let's say, which is operating in Bangalore but can have national resonance but is still just a local brand in Bangalore. We can help them scale up that business in 10 other cities, right? Without them having to go through the grind that we had to go through of first building a restaurant, then building support, then building a restaurant, then building support, and thereon. We already have boots on the ground in these 80 locations. It becomes easier for us to help other brands scale up. The Our business is such, variety is always, it's an anti-loyalty business, right? What you ate today for lunch, you won't want to eat for dinner. If you ate Chinese in a particular restaurant yesterday, even though you love Chinese, your favorite cuisine, the chances of you going back to the same restaurant every week for the rest of your life, zero.
Very interesting that you should use that, and like, that the phrase anti-loyalty, and I sort of agree with it. But how do you reconcile with the goal of also aiming for frequency? Because don't doesn't when you're saying that one of the metrics for success is frequency.
For what we gauge,
Right. And then there is also the reality, which is anti-loyalty. Right. So what is at the intersection of frequency and anti-loyalty? What makes people come back?
Okay, so cafes operate at a very different frequency basis than restaurants do. Okay. Cafes, you don't think that much about frequenting because it's your neighborhood adda. You don't count the amount of times you went to
In
a
fact,
Starbucks, right?
cafes may not be anti-loyalty, right? Cafes are
Cafes,
loyalty.
cafes, people are looking for convenience and comfort. Restaurants, people are looking for experience and exhilaration, right? It's slightly different.
Got it.
So while even within a cafe, there comes a point of time where you want to see something else. You go to a cafe because it's part of your routine, right? But restaurants, for that matter, is if today you've gone and eaten at this restaurant, this particular cuisine, and you want the same cuisine, chances are tomorrow you'll probably hunt out a different restaurant. It's just the way it is, right? People will want variety, and why not? Because that's the way it is. We want variety in our food. Uh, it's not like how it used to be. Yes, now there's so much choice. You want to explore it all.
Got it.
So for us, it's very clear that look, that guest is not. You're not going to cannibalize that business by offering another. Like in Bandra right now, we have 10 restaurants, and we have guys who go from one restaurant to another. If I only had one restaurant in the location of Bandra, I would get 1/10 of their wallet. But now I'm getting a substantial chunk more because I'm offering a different product, a different mood space, a different experience.
All right. Riyaaz, last question. On a scale of 1 to 10, how happy are you with your life?
I'm living the dream, buddy. It's really hard to complain. There are things, uh, human nature. I would like, oh, I don't have enough time. I wish I could, focus more time on my health, or maybe I could spend more time with my family. But I signed up for this and I'm living my dream. So, yeah, I would say 9.9 on 10.
Wow. I'm surprised. Why did you dock that point 1?
Doc, which part?
The point 1. Why did you not say 10 on 10? Because I noticed earlier also
Modesty.
you also used a decimal earlier when you said 7.5 on 10. So you have this thing for decimals.
I've always wondered why do we always set up meetings like 9 o'clock or 9:30? Why do we never do a 9:20? Right? It's one of those things.
Thank you. What a wonderful conversation, Riyaaz. Thanks a bunch.
I enjoyed it. Thank you so much, man.
If you've been a long-time listener to this podcast and are glad we're back, do tell the world by sharing this episode with everyone you think will find it valuable. This is me, Rohin Dharmakumar, signing off. We'll be back soon with another episode.